Hello!
Thank you for joining us on our first episode of Road Reads. I'm Seisha.
And I'm Jaya, and we are your hosts for this podcast.
So today we are going to be discussing Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen.
This book was published in 1813.
And a little background about Jane Austen is she was an English novelist. She's known for her keen awareness of social manners, romantic and familial relationships, and her witty writing style. Her main books are Pride and Prejudice, Emma, and Sense and Sensibility.
Another interesting fact about Jane Austen is that throughout her life, she actually wasn't as renowned as she is. She's considered humorously, a founding figure of classical English literature, but that didn't happen until afterwards, when she was unmarried for all of her life. So she didn't really have the financial stability to back a big writer. So she mostly got anonymously published in newspapers, supported by her family and her savings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right, so we'll do a short summary of the book now.
Okay.
Stacia's going to start.
Okay, so basically, Pride and Prejudice follows Elizabeth Bennet and, the Bennet family, where Elizabeth is a sharp-witted and independent young woman, and she's navigating, love, class, and societal expectations in the Regency era of England.
This book is also following marriage and marriages of many main characters, Elizabeth included. We follow her as she meets Mr. Darcy, who is a extremely wealthy, upstanding citizen, but her and Mr. Darcy get off on the wrong foot after he unknowingly insults her at a ball, and she garners this deep hatred of him, and they are throughout the book they're learning to combat that hatred and overcome it and overcome their initial impressions of each other and eventually fall in love.
Yeah. And by the end, spoiler if you haven't read the book, Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy get married, and then Elizabeth's sister Jane and Mr. Bingley get married, which is kind of like the B plot of the book.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we're going to get into our overall thoughts on the book, on the plot. I love Jane Austen. I think she's an incredibly good writer, and I personally love how much dialogue there is in the book, because I felt like she didn't tell us explicitly about a lot of the characters. A lot of her characterization occurred through what the characters said and what they actually spoke and how they acted within the realm of other people. So it allowed the reader to feel and to think for themselves who the characters were, and it gave them the capacity to do that.
Mm-hmm. I also I agree.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that. I love how she wrote the dialogue. It's very
mm-hmm.
witty and sharp, and it's humorous too. You're allowed to have fun with it.
Mm-hmm. I actually wasn't expecting to be kicking my feet and twirling my hair as much as I was.
I actually laughed at something, and I was like, wow.
And the dialogue and the banter, so to speak, between Mr. Darcy and Elizabeth is so well done, and I love how it progresses as the relationship progresses into less harsh and cynical. It's a little more admirational and I don't know if that's a word. I also love how grounded in reality this book is. Obviously Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy have their happily ever after, but not all of the characters do, which makes it a lot more real and really shows her that shows us this time period wasn't just full of glitter and rainbows. There were some unhappy marriages, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I love that we actually got to sit with Elizabeth and sit with Mr. Darcy. We felt the pain that Elizabeth went through, when she found out, that Mr. Darcy was the reason that Jane didn't get her marriage. We actually, we were able to feel that anger. We were able to, experience that as a reader with her.
Mm-hmm.
And I love, how much time we got to spend with that, with the characters and, the pain they felt. But then, also, when they felt joy, we were able to feel it with them.
Yeah. Her characters are very relatable. Everything that they're going through, I feel me personally, I've definitely, misjudged people on first impressions before. I've definitely been a little prideful at times. I feel it doesn't, these are, super rich, wealthy, noble people in, in the 1800s in England, but at the same time I feel they're really relatable to how we go through the tides today.
Mm-hmm. I also did how there was the social class lens aspect.
Yes.
Even though the Bennets are more rich than what you would like what we are, but like they were compared to like Mr. Darcy and Mr. Bingley. They were struggling, and the reason why they had to find marriages of like the reason why they weren't able to look for love, like her mom wasn't focused on making them love marriages, is because they weren't gonna get the estate. Like I liked that the class kind of came into it and also played a role, but the prejudice, like there was the prejudice, of course, Mr. Darcy holding it against like Elizabeth for being lower class, but the prejudice was like more rooted in like the behavior of the family, because I thought it was gonna be like he hates them because they're lower class, but they're actually just like really amazing people. And yeah, he hates them because they're lower class, but they're also like unruly and like disrespectful sometimes. So there was actually like there was basis for some of the prejudice. Like I liked how nuanced that was.
And I do think that like Austen like possesses like a crazy kind of like awareness in that. Like this book is so chock full of like subtle social critiques and like all these different lenses: gender, marriage, equality, social status. There's one quote specifically, the very first line of the book, where she says, "It is universally acknowledged that a single man in possession of a good fortune must be in want of a wife," which I think just sets the stage so well for like, you know, she's kind of like taking like almost like a cynical like tone of like what marriage was considered by then, and like what like Miss Bennet considered marriage as, and what Mr. Bennet considered marriage as. And then throughout the book she kind of managed to overcome that and show that there's many different like aspects to marriage and many different like spheres in which it can exist.
Like Austen was definitely way ahead of her time.
Oh, 100%.
Like
Just the fact that like everything she's writing is so culturally relevant like now. Like every like marriage she shows, like marriage for money, marriage for love, marriage out of like satisfaction, like you can relate that to relationships now so easily that it just really shows like how timeless this piece is.
But like at the same time though, you can tell it was written in the 1800s. Like as much as Elizabeth is like witty and like sharp, and she does things that you wouldn't normally expect in the societal norm, for the most part she's still like a woman who she's a joyous character. Like you didn't see her as like kind of like the Mary Sue character who like she can do whatever and just like get away with it. But she was like she's like she's a nice person, she's humorful, she's funny, she generally like you would want to be like, if Elizabeth was like a real person, you'd want to be like, I'd want to be friends with her, you know? Like she's still like like in that perspective, like Austen wouldn't have been like allowed to like write like a woman, like a arrogant kind of vibe with the woman, because like that just wouldn't have been like appealing at the time.
It's really interesting to see, like, this is kind of off topic, but it's really interesting to see like in these older books like how like these like women who were like supposed to be like super independent and witty were written, because like they were supposed to be like, you know, pioneers, but you can also see like how much Jane Austen held back when she was writing Elizabeth. Like you can really see like the prejudices of the time that were against her and like what she had to do with that. So that's really interesting. Shall we dive into themes?
Yes.
Okay. The first theme that I want to talk about is love, which I believe is like the kind of the central like all-encompassing theme of the novel. Do you have any first thoughts on that?
Love. Well, I mean, I love the idea in any book, the theme of like love prevailing despite prejudices or like things that like obstacles that prevent that from happening, and you definitely see that with Mr. Darcy. I also love, this is just real quick, the Pride and Prejudice, like the title can be debated completely, like is it Darcy's prejudice against
I love that,
her, or is it her prejudice against him, or is it pride? Like I love that, but but in the end, like, you know, like love does prevail. So
and I feel like a lot of what like the whole point of this novel is that like you can't really love somebody until you know them and until you know your faults, until you know their faults and are willing to overlook that. And that's Jane Austen does this really well in the novel throughout like multiple of the relationships. Like first you have Elizabeth and Darcy, which is like the central relationship in the novel, and obviously they have so many like of these like obstacles that they have to go to like get over to like, you know, eventually get married. But I think it's so important that a lot of these obstacles are created by themselves and by their pride and by their prejudices. Like Elizabeth, and like when she first meets him, like she's so blinded by her prejudice against like how rude he was to her at the ball and how like aloof and indifferent he seems, that like she can't like even fathom that he might be a good person. And she has to, and it takes like herself, she has to like realize herself, like, oh my god, like I messed up, like I hated this guy so much, like I couldn't even like imagine there being any good in him. And she has to get over that, and she has to learn that what she did was wrong, and she has to grow from that.
But, like, also at the same time, Darcy, like, shouldn't have said that. Like, it was, like, he made a mistake in that point. Like, he had to get over his own prejudice against Elizabeth. Yeah, and he definitely atones for that. You know,
when Lydia creates that big scandal that, like, almost ruins the Bennet family, like, it's Mr. Darcy who's fighting for them on the front lines.
Yeah, that was definitely his, like, redeeming moment.
100%.
You know?
And I love how his redeeming moment, like, he didn't even want Elizabeth to know about it. Like, when Elizabeth, like, congratulated him, he was like, oh my god, like, who told you? And that just makes him seem like the Mr. Darcy from the end of the book compared to the Mr. Darcy from the beginning of the book, it's almost as if, like, the reader themselves gets over their prejudices against him, too.
Exactly,
which is really fun, because it makes the reader, like, a part of the story. And what else about love? I also think that, like, there's many different types of love, and, like, many different types of, like, marriages, and one that I always found super interesting in this novel that's supposed to be about, like, true love and, like love for marriages and love matches, like the relationship between Mr. Collins and Charlotte being like so like forced, and like obviously Charlotte doesn't want to marry him, and she's just doing it for money, and she's, you know, willing to be content with that. I like how Jane Austen, like, she shows like, yeah, it's like a sad it's a sad phenomenon that Charlotte has to marry Mr. Collins for money, but I like how she shows, like, Charlotte, like, isn't, you know, she isn't torn up about it. Like, she isn't suffering. Like, she's content. She knows her lot. She realized, like, this, like, you know, I had to do this for my family. And, like, obviously it's not a good thing, but I like how it shows, like, you know, you don't, like, in this period in time, you don't have to find a Mr. Darcy to be happy.
Yeah, and very realistic for the times. Yeah, like, and again, like, as we were talking in the beginning, like, since the book is so realistic, like, it wouldn't have felt grounded if there wasn't, like, a marriage like that, you know? And same thing with Lydia and Wickham, like, we know who Wickham is. He's not, like, the nicest guy. And so, obviously, it's not something that both of them want. But it's something that needs to be done. Which is a whole other thing with Lydia, like, going and running off on her own and doing that. But,
And the thing about Lydia is, like, how her love is more, like, it's more infatuation than love. And I love how, like,
because she's so young.
Yeah, she's, like, what, 16 years old? That's how old we are. And, like, I love how, like, she, like, realizes, like, oh, like, I shouldn't have married for this. Like, at the end of the book, I'm pretty sure, like, it says, like, they, like, fell out of love eventually.
Yeah.
Or, like, at least Wickham did. I think, like, if we were to make a thematic assertion about the theme of first impressions, I would say that Austen is trying to make it very clear that while first impressions are very vital to understanding a person, they can always be misleading and always be destructive in forming a relationship with that person.
Yeah. Like, in which we see from the contrasting Wickham versus Darcy, like, the first impression Elizabeth, oh my god, why do I keep making that mistake? The first impression Elizabeth has of Wickham is obviously, like, he's, like, this very charming, like, nice, like, pleasant guy, and then the first impression she has of Darcy is just, like, an arrogant, stuck-up kind of man. But then in the end, they, like, obviously switch places. And I also really liked how, this is a complete tangent, but I liked how the thing about Wickham, like, how, like, when he gives Elizabeth the letter, when Mr. Darcy gives Elizabeth the letter, and it's about, there's two things, it's about Jane and it's about Wickham, and with Wickham it's like Wickham's fault, but then with Jane it's Darcy's fault. Like, there was both, like, the, like, Wickham, but also, like, Wickham's past wasn't entirely, it's not like he was, like, this evil, like...
Yeah, it was very flawed.
Yeah, very flawed, very, like, realistic, grounded, nuanced. And at the same time, while Darcy was trying to help Bingley, still what he did was, a horrible thing for the Bennets, like, for Jane and her family. So, like, she's still gonna have a little bit of, like, angst against that, and, like... But at the same time, we understand why he did it, but he's not just totally exempt from, like, any flaws, you know? Yeah, which also, again, shows how, like, first impressions, like,
Elizabeth in this case, like, mostly wrong about him being, like, you know, so prideful and arrogant, but she wasn't, like, Mr. Darcy wasn't without his faults and his missteps. Like, he did do bad things, and Elizabeth had to get over that, too.
Yeah. Also, there's obviously, like, a theme of Pride and Prejudice, and I liked how we saw that in the other couples, too. Like, not just Darcy and Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Because, like, with Bingley and Jane, their thing's, like, a little bit more nuanced. I was a little bit confused, too, because I didn't understand, like, in the book, it was harped on a bit that, like, I remember Charlotte talking to Elizabeth about how Jane wasn't that open about her love for him. Didn't think that was going to go anywhere, and then it did, and so I really liked how that did. But, like, Bingley's prejudice is obviously coming from the fact that Jane is from a lower, like, household, but also it's Bingley's blindness to think for himself. Like, it's his blind faith in Darcy when Darcy told him, like, gave him the, like, advice to not marry her. He, like, just listened.
Yeah.
You know, so, like, that's, like, his thing. And then Jane's thing was, like, her, like, kind of naiveness. Right? It's interesting that they both have, like, that naive innocence. Like, with Bingley's, it was with Darcy. With Jane, it was her inability to see bad in anyone. She was, like, they all have like, they probably have reasons.
Yeah. And, like, going off that, this is probably more of, like, should be in, like, the characterization, like, section. But I think that, like, Jane and Elizabeth and Darcy and Bingley kind of serve as foils of each other.
Oh, yeah.
Like, while, like, Elizabeth is, like, supposed to be this super witty, like, smart, like, you know, she knows about life, she knows about love. Like, Jane is kind of naive, and, like, she, like, kind of sees the best in people, like, almost to a fault, where, like, she spends, like, her entire, like, even when in London, when Miss Bingley, Mr. Bingley's sister comes, like, to, like, visit her and is, like, being super mean and, like, disrespectful, Jane is like, oh, you know, maybe she was having a bad day, maybe it was just, you know, something else. Like, she's, like, almost too willing to see the good in people, where Elizabeth is almost too ready to see the bad. And for Mr. Bingley and Mr. Darcy, it's, like, super, like, stand up, like, you know, like, he'll take charge of a situation, like he did in the Lydia situation. But Mr. Bingley, he kind of waits for people to tell him what to do. Like, even when he finally proposed to Jane, he needed to wait for, like, his sister to be okay with it, Mr. Darcy to be okay with it.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't, like, he, like, lacks, like a sense of self, in a way.
Yeah, but at the same time, they both, like, Darcy needed Bingley's, like, compassion, you could say, and he got that from Bingley. Like, in the end, he was able to put his, like, pride away and told, like, Elizabeth with that first proposal. Well, also, we can talk about the first proposal versus the second proposal.
Yes, I would love to talk about that.
Yeah. So, like, okay, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, so I tied the different proposals into a motif that I found of, like, or actually a symbol that I found of, like, the outdoors being, like, like, symbolizing, like, a place of, like, free speech and free judgment, like, unconfined by, like, societal expectations.
Yeah.
Because in the first proposal, that happens, like, inside while Darcy, like, kind of barges in the room and, like, is, like, kind of angrily proposing to Elizabeth, which is kind of fun. But, like, while he's inside, like, all he can think about is, like, oh my god, I'm proposing to this, like, middle-class nobody. And, like, he spends more time talking about how unfit Elizabeth is for a wife than talking about how much he actually likes her.
Yeah.
Which really pisses Elizabeth off. And then Elizabeth goes on and on about how much, like, you know, how much Darcy has screwed her over and screwed her family over. And, like, that entire proposal is just so full of, like, prejudice and pride and these, like, societal expectations. But the second proposal happens while they're, like, outside, you know, clean air, like, you know, plants or whatever.
Sun's out.
Sun's shining. And they're, like, you can really see, like, the difference in their, like, demeanor. Like, they're both so easygoing here.
Yeah.
They're, like, they're listening to each other. They're compassionate. And it's just, like, it's so rewarding. It's so much sweeter.
It feels so earned.
It feels so earned.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, like, I like how, Mr. Darcy, like, he's, like, yeah, like you said, he's, like, it's built, the proposal is, like, rooted of his, like, necessity, kind of. He's like, I need to tell you how much, like, I love you. Like, I need to tell you, like, you take this away from me, and, like, and then when she, like, and then her response is rooted in just, like, obligation.
Yeah.
She's just like, oh, I need, like, to this, like, to, like, something like this. I have to say this, but and then she, like, in the end, she's like, I didn't mean to cause you pain unconsciously. She did. She was like, I hope you suffer. But then versus the second proposal where, like, it was, like, Darcy's like, I'm saying the same stuff, and this is the first time we're hearing, like, Elizabeth, she's just listening. She's just ready to just hear it. She doesn't want to fight, and she's like, she's not silenced, but she's more at peace with being silent, you know?
And I feel like this is even more, like, rewarding because, like, Elizabeth wasn't sure that he was going to propose again. And, like, obviously, at this time, women can't propose. It was really up to him. Like, she was, like, there were, like, in the chapters before, like, she was, like, so worried that, like, she, like, completely messed it up. Like, you know, she fell in love too late. She realized her feelings too late. And it's, like, it's probably, like, if you could go inside her head, I bet, like, she, like, you can't even, like, feel the butterflies she's feeling right now, you know? Like, it's, like, she's, like, finally done it, you know? She's gathered his love. So I feel like those two proposals are so cool. Like,
and
there's
like their juxtaposition and their parallel, because like Darcy doesn't, it's so well done because Darcy doesn't say anything new. It's not like he makes a new proposal. He's like, I still feel the same way. Do you feel the same way? Kind of vibe.
I love how that's phrased. I love how that's phrased in the book. Okay.
And then also, like, we were having this debate a little earlier, but it's about whether this book is third person limited.
Oh my god.
Omniscient.
I am a firm truther that this is a limited perspective.
Yeah.
I don't know if, like, maybe I'm forgetting something, but, like, to me, the book felt like it was, like, very much from, like, Elizabeth's point of view, and, like, you very much heard her thoughts and her feelings and, like, you know, her kind of character arc, and I feel like Darcy's character arc happened kind of off-screen.
Yeah.
But I want to hear your side.
Yeah. No, I agree. Like, it was definitely centered from Elizabeth's point of view, and, like, you see scenes happening when she's present, you know? But I feel like maybe I'm just remembering it wrong, but I swear to God, I remember that there were, like, paragraphs where Austen would, like, explain Darcy's thoughts or, like, perspective on Elizabeth.
Honestly, maybe she did and I forgot.
Yeah. But okay, I just might be thinking it wrong.
Yeah.
But either way, whether it is third person limited or omniscient, it's still not, like, it's not my idea of third person, like, modern idea of third person limited, I wouldn't say, because it still feels very, like, there's so many B plots happening, you know?
Yes, and I actually do love that.
Yeah, I love
how
that.
it's not like the world doesn't revolve around Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy, you know? Like, there's other dramas and there's other heartbreaks happening.
Yeah. And then, because that also ties into, like, her relationship with, like, the people, like, whose story, like, also kind of gets told, because it just shows, like, how much, as much as, like, she can be embarrassed of her family, and she can, like, she's obviously annoyed, as a sister would be, she also loves her family to death, you know? And then I personally loved her relationship with her father.
Yes!
Like, one of my favorite quotes is actually, I'm getting ahead of myself.
No, you got it.
But it's your mother will never see you again if you do not marry Mr. Collins, and I will never see you again if you do.
Dude, when I read that, I gasped. Me too.
I was like, oh my god, I love that.
So good.
It was so sweet.
Okay, so, like, obviously neither of her parents are good people. Like, they have their faults. Like, from the way I see it, like, and there's, like, a whole chapter on this too. But, like, Miss Bennet was, like, so overbearing and, like, so, like, kind of crazy, and, like, she was social enough for the two of them. Like, Mr. Bennet was, like, kind of just, like, allowed himself to, like, you know, kind of, like, fall back behind, seclude himself, and he kind of, like, dropped all, like, parental, like needs. Like, he doesn't act like a father to anybody except for Elizabeth.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, you still see, like, the connection that Elizabeth has with her father. Like, she would obviously rather, like, talk to her father than
100%.
talk to her mother. But at the same time, like as much as you hate Mrs. Bennet, you're like, oh my god, can you just care about your daughter for once?
No,
you know?
literally.
At the same time, you kind of understand where she's coming from. You're like, all she wants is to make sure her her parents. Her daughters get, like, properly married. Like imagine having only daughters and no sons at that time. Yeah. So she's obviously, like, grappling with that, and she's like, I need them to get married and prosperously, because otherwise they're not going to be taken care of. You know? And that's, like, a pressure to have. But I'm also just like, can you shut up? Just let them do their thing.
I love how, like, again, like we were touching on earlier, like the social aspect, like the social class aspect. Like, she's lower class, but, like, she's also like a fundamentally annoying person. Like, she pisses me off.
You can tell she's so aristocratic.
Yes. It's like she wants to be above her class so badly, and I feel like that's really important to the plot.
Yeah, it is. It also goes into like the desires kind of theme. I mean, like, every book has desires, but like the desire, like each character, when you start the book, you realize what each character's, like, goal is. Yeah. You know, and you start to realize their flaws pretty soon, which gives, like, the reader something that they can anticipate, you know. It gives them a reason to actually connect with the characters and, like, keep reading to see where they go, you know.
It's a very enticing book. Like it's like, once you get, like, through, like, the first like of any good book, the first few chapters are so boring, and as soon as you get over them, it really, like, draws you in. Like, you really, like, you find yourself a part of that world, and it's really it's great. All right, welcome to our mini fun section. So today we have assigned some songs to our characters. I assigned songs to the characters. Stacia assigned songs to, like, the relationship and the plot. So I'm really excited about this one. Okay. For Elizabeth Bennet, I have Where Do We Go Now by Gracie Abrams. Oh, have you heard that song?
Yes.
Oh my god.
I see that.
I thought of it up in biology, and I was, like, swimming through my Spotify, and I saw it, and, like, it, like, glowed. Okay, let me think of a lyric. It was like, we can meet down the line after all of this time and give an actual try. Like, that's so perfect. That's so perfect. And we had no control when it fell through. It was one-sided hate how I hurt you.
Oh, right? That's perfect.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then Mr. Darcy was low-key really hard to find out.
I know. I couldn't think of any.
Like, 'cause, like, his personality is, like, so, like, unique. But I had two. I have All I Wanted by Paramore. Okay. There's not many lyrics besides All I Wanted Was You. But, I mean, it makes sense.
Was that the All I Wanted Was You? Okay.
Yeah. I thought that one particularly because, like, throughout, like, most, like, the end of the book, like, he, like, when he was, like, fixing the Bennet's family, like, situation with Lydia, like, he was doing it all for Elizabeth, like, for her attention.
Yeah. I also think a Hamilton song could work with
Oh my god, because the 1800s?
Well, no, not just the 1800s, but I feel like Darcy and Hamilton have a little bit in common. Like, they're both prideful, you know? Right. They're both, like, ambitious and, like, unwilling to, like, look past their goals.
Oh my god. Oh my god! Wait, you're so right!
Yeah.
I'm, like, trying to think of, like, a Hamilton, like, Hurricane.
Like, Hurricane, yeah, literally, oh
my god!
Yeah.
You're so right! Yeah. Okay. What's your song for the relationship?
Okay, so I had two. They're both Taylor Swift.
Honestly, obviously.
Okay, so I was thinking "'Tis the Damn Season."
Oh!
Because it's like, tis the damn season. You staying at your parents' house, or what is the line? Like,
staying at your parents' house.
Yeah, the road not taken looks real good now. Yeah.
You're so right. You're so right.
And so, like, that's, like, when she's in the stage of, like, cause she goes to her aunt's house, and that's where she meets, and that's when they go to the Darcy's house, and that's when the whole thing happens.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and then, so that's, like, when her stage is, like, she's like, why did I do that? You know? And then I was thinking, like, after they get together, the lakes. Like, because there's, like, tell me what are my words worth? Just because she's like very smart, and and neither of them kind of conform to, like, the idea, this, like, societal norms. Like, Darcy doesn't like to dance. Like, he's he's not that, like, he's not a social butterfly. And Elizabeth is witty, and she's, like, satirical. Like, she doesn't really, like, fit the woman's standards.
Oh my god, you're so right.
Yeah.
And, like, at the end, like, don't they, like, move away from everybody anyway? Like, they do go to the lakes.
Yeah.
Oh my god, I love that.
I do.
Okay, perfect.
Okay.
That's so fun.
And then did we do a favorite quote?
No, let's do that right now.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a few favorite quotes. I think I think my favorite one is, this one. This is right when she says after she gets proposed, after, like, her and Darcy, like, officially get proposed.
Okay.
She says, I am the happiest creature in the world. Perhaps other people have said so before, but not one with such justice. I am happier even than Jane. She only smiles. I laugh.
Oh,
which I think just, like, it just
nice
shows,
one.
like, how deep and, like, true, like, Elizabeth and Darcy's, like, love is. And, like, it also shows, like Austen, like, really proves to us, like, you can't be in love with somebody until you're, like, familiar, until you know them, until they can make you laugh and not just smile. And I think that's so important. Like, it's so beautifully said.
Okay, mine was, so I had a few, but I think mine was, I could easily forgive his pride if he had not mortified mine. Because when she said, Austen, she's so good at the quips.
Yes.
You know, the words just, like,
the
match,
dialogue.
you know? But I just thought that was, like, it was, like, very well, because I was like, yeah, that's so true. Like, it's not, to Elizabeth, it is not even the fact that he's prideful, it's just the fact that he insulted her!
Yeah!
With no reason.
Yes.
So, yeah. So that's mine.
I love that.
And then there's also, like, the whole, I only wrote the my good opinion once lost is lost forever, but, like, that whole paragraph when they're, like, exchanging, they have such good witty banter, but I was just like, that's very telling of who Darcy is, you know?
I also love the quote, I forget who says this, but angry people are not often wise, which kind of shows, like, the irrational, like missteps that, like, Jane, like, or, like, Elizabeth made. Like, she was so angry at Darcy, like, you know, she was unwilling to see any good in him. And I just, like, I love how, like, much she grew from that, you know? Like, she went from being so angry to laughing.
Elizabeth's character development was incredible.
Beautiful.
Same with Darcy.
Their arcs were perfect.
Yeah.
And, side note, I said this to Stacia so many times, I love how their arcs happen separately.
Yeah.
I love how they don't need each other to realize that, like, they have faults. They realize themselves that, okay, I have this pride or I have this prejudice and I need to get over it, and they get over it themselves. And then they re-meet each other when they're the best versions of themselves.
Yeah.
And it's so perfect. It's like an entirely different pair of people. It's so good.
And, like, their arcs complement each other because they like grew with because they're very similar, but they also had different things that they had to work on. And, like, they eventually grew to a place where they could both be compatible, you know? Because in the beginning, like, with that first proposal, there was like tension, like, there was romantic tension, I guess, but, like, there was so much hatred and visceral rage that, like, there wasn't, like, rationale, you know? So, like, them being able to, like, grow into, like, a place where they could have, like, just, like, stable conversations just shows, like, their incredible growth.
Yeah. All right. And we also had another fun question that was, if, like, you could ship one of the characters with, like, somebody from, like, modern literature, who would that be? And earlier today, I said Anthony Bridgerton, and Stacey got very heated, but would not tell me why. So I'm very curious.
So you said you would ship Elizabeth with Anthony Bridgerton.
Yeah, because I think him and Mr. Darcy are, like, really similar.
They are very similar. I agree completely. Kate and Anthony are kind of like the knockoff Elizabeth.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
Darcy, but personally, and this is just me, like, wanting to rant about Bridgerton, but personally, I don't believe that they would actually be a healthy, like, relationship, because I think what Kate and Anthony were able to, like, actually, like, form a relationship off of was their ability to relate in responsibility. Like, the fact that they're both older siblings that sacrifice so much of their life for, like, their families, like, they could relate to that. I don't think Elizabeth, however, would be able to relate to that, because she never had to make a sacrifice to, like, play a duty or a role for her family. Like, she's done things for her family, but it was never, like, a sacrifice to her own. Like, actually, the things she did hurt her family, if you thought about it, would hurt her family, because she rejected 2 proposals. The proposal to Mr. Collins, rejecting that was like a problem because they wouldn't get the estate, and then the proposal to Mr. Darcy, also a problem because that kind of, like, marrying a man with that much money would be incredible for the family. So her, like, decisions were very selfish based, and, like, I don't think that would be compatible with Anthony. I also just don't think that Elizabeth would like how, just, like, I don't know. I just don't see them working in my mind. I
so
think Elizabeth is just too optimistic.
Who do you see working? Because I have nothing then.
I don't know actually, because I was thinking, okay, not as a ship, but I do think that Elizabeth and Daphne from Bridgerton. I love how we're staying in the Bridgerton thing.
The book and the show are very
similar. I think they could get a well. No, actually, Jane and Daphne.
Oh my god, you're so right.
Wait. Okay, yeah, that's like a whole other thing. But isn't the little woman? I saw this like edit of like the Little Woman, and then the Bridgerton sisters. Like how Daphne is like the older sister in Little Woman.
Oh, I don't believe that. I think Eloise is the older.
Oh, okay.
Because wait, the oldest one is Jo, right? Jo's the one who's the writer.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's 100% Eloise trying to like rise above her womanly station.
Okay, so but would you say that any of the Little Women would be compatible?
Ooh, I think that who's the one? Is it March? Who's the one who's played by Peyton Pooh? What's her name? Florence Pugh. Who's the one that's played by Florence Pugh? Is that March? Amy. No, it's Amy. I think Amy is a lot like Jane. I think they would get along.
Really?
I think they would get along.
Okay. I think, wouldn't Amy and Lydia?
Oh.
Don't they do similar things, I'd
They
say?
do, but like Amy like has like great character development, and Lydia just pissed me off the entire book.
I do think like most of the character development in Pride and Prejudice was focused on Darcy and
that's okay.
Yeah. Well, because it's their story, like, and I feel like if there was like a spin-off of like the Bennett family, we would be able to see Lydia grow. Like, because like I feel like the sisters played a prominent role, but they didn't get much character development on their own. Like, I don't think Jane got that much character development, but that obviously wasn't the point of the story.
And that was a good choice.
Yeah. Okay, so final section, relevance to
modern
or impact on modern literature. So
you gonna start?
Yeah, I can start. Okay, so it's one of the first, Pride and Prejudice is one of the first rom-coms in genre's history, and Darcy and Elizabeth were definitely a basis for enemies to lovers.
Yeah.
And I went on a little like research rabbit hole yesterday in the enemies to lovers category because I was interested actually where did the idea of enemies to lovers even start. So I have that Gilgamesh and Enkidu.
Oh my god, wait, real quick,
So,
I'm actually listening to a podcast about them right now.
Really?
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Keep talking.
But anyway, they were like, Enkidu is a demon, and he becomes friends with Gilgamesh, and it's kind of like the, like, oh, were they lovers or were they just friends? But they started out enemies, and then they, like, had closer connections. So that was kind of, like, the first thing we see. And then the next thing is Troilus and Cressida. So Troilus' story actually dates to Greek myth, but their love story was created in the mid-1380s by Geoffrey Chaucer, where he actually wrote, like, their love story out. They didn't start off as full enemies, but they were, like, they had enough antagonism. Like, they were they had enough dislike for each other to count. And then the third is actually Pride and Prejudice.
Oh!
So I didn't realize that it was that, like,
That's
that
cool.
big of a thing, but it was to be third on that list. So it definitely made such a big impact on Enemies to Lovers. And Enemies to Lovers is such a huge trope now. It's so
everywhere. Popular.
Yeah.
And I obviously did not do as much research as that. Oh my gosh. But I do think that like it's not only like literally like literaturely like relevant today, but it's also like culturally relevant. Like the idea of like, you know, like Jane Austen is so like obviously against like love at first sight that like it's almost laughable, and I love that. You know, like you can't love someone until you've known them and until you've known their faults and until you've learned how to, you know, move past that and get over that.
Yeah.
And I think that's such an important concept, not only in 1813's women, but in today's women and in today's men. And like knowing that like love can't appear out of nowhere. You have to work for it, and you have to be willing to change yourself for it for the better.
Yeah. Like her slow burn, I think this is a problem that a lot of like romance books nowadays is like, or even enemies to lovers nowadays, is when they try to do the slow burn, it'll be like a hate and then automatic love for each other.
Yes.
But I didn't really feel that with Pride and Prejudice, because like there was enough of like time of, like you said, they had their arcs separately.
Mm-hmm.
There was enough time for the reader also to sit with their hatred for each other and to grow with them when they started loving each other.
Yeah, and they're like at least like Elizabeth's like fanning flames of love or whatever like happens like systematically and like gradually, and you can like you really follow that, which is really important.
Yeah.
And I feel like honestly, did the slow burn trope come from her too? Because I feel like it should have.
Yeah, maybe.
It probably did.
Yeah.
But I feel like this is like, it is a timeless romance, you know? Like every book, every romance book, you could probably connect back to Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah.
Like, at some point. Like, they are, like, the blueprint. Which I think is just, it's so crazy that, like, Jane Austen could have had, like, this much of an impact on the genre.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy how much of these concepts, you know, like, they, like, haven't changed. Like, we still go over, like, you know, these issues of like equality in gender, of like equality in social class, and they're still so important to today's society that I think that's why I think it's so essential that we keep rereading these kind of books and keep learning about where we came from and what people used to think and how we can change that for the better.
Yeah, because like the classics are classics for a reason. Like they're the themes that they explore, like about the human condition, like all of that, like so relevant today because humans just haven't changed. Like, honestly.
Literally.
Like, we've grown technologically and here and there, but just, like, deep to, down to, like, the fundamental what is humanity hasn't really changed that much.
I truly believe that humanity is fundamentally fixed and it will never change. Because I think it's just so, like, evolutionary, like, ingrained into us what it is to be a human. And, like, I don't know what it means to be a human yet. I don't think anybody does.
Yeah.
But I think that's why it's so important to read books and to, you know, learn about our history and dig up all these ruins, because I think it's so important to learn about where we came from, where we've changed, and where we haven't, and where maybe we should.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
And overall, like, Pride and Prejudice is just, like, an incredible read.
It's such a good book. I'm gonna be honest, I wasn't completely into it at the beginning, but once you, like, get in the motion, like, it's addicting. Like, I couldn't stop reading it.
Yeah, like, their love in the end. Like, the last, like, 10 chapters just picked, like, so much, like, that had so much material.
So much,
I was just like,
oh
so
my
speed. God.
Yeah. Okay.
But yeah.
On that note.
Yeah. Thank you again for listening
to Road Reads.
And tune in next time for our next book.
Yes, thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye.